when I sort of off the cuff made the promise to not shave my beard until all my assays were in, I kind of thought I'd end up maybe a little scruffy. Here I am, 3 or so months later, and I kind of look like a young hipster Santa Claus. But this is, man of my word. So the beard remains until the last of the assays are in. Yeah, unfortunately, with none of the assays in, and we don't have any holes in yet, I'm afraid. Well, they're actually, I think it's important to distinguish there is some new things that's happened since I last presented in October at MIF. As we breeze past the obligatory cautionary statements here, I'm first going to kind of summarize, I think, and particularly since October, we've seen that the nascent, bull market for base metals, it's for real. It's happening. You're seeing generalists and even well-known tech bros on Twitter talking about metal demand. And it's when those guys, start to open their mouth and talk about that with their massive following that we start to see real, generalist movement into metals of mining. You combine that with, very, significant infrastructure investment coming in the coming years as a result of stimulus, from COVID. It's going to be one hell of a ride. We really believe our project, Macmillan Pass, is a clear standout in the zinc space. We know that the big names are already paying attention. I mean, Tech's one of our shareholders and invested money in the company. And 2020 was really a game-changing year for us. We showed just how much bigger boundary zone, in the western part of the property could get. So we're still cheap, so many of us base metal companies are, and I think the best is ahead of us, and when I talk about, well, what's cheap and what's the best ahead of us, you look at the run that, Arizona Mining went on leading up to the takeout by South 32, $2 billion Canadian transaction. That was a 30x move in their share price in the last 2 years. Their project at that, M&A point, bigger than what we have now, but certainly within striking range when we start to conceive of the potential size of Macmillan Pass. And that sort of started, not just with the success of a project, but with a move in the zinc price. And since October, I've got this chart starting at October 8th, which is the last time I talked at MIF, zinc up 17%, lead up 13%. Silver, which had already moved a lot at that point, up 7%. So like I said, the base metal bull market has started. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but it's going to be a long multi-year, definitely a cycle, right? So we think we're well positioned, obviously, backed by the Discovery Group. John Robbins, our chairman, still maintained a pretty tight share structure from our IPO in 2017. Great board, great management, great team. I hope you've been watching our Meet Fireweed series. We've got some more videos coming there. And the project, where we want to be, safe jurisdiction, has road access. We can get to rail, we can get to deep sea ports. And critically, when we've been expanding this project, we did a deal in December to grow the project from 540 odd square kilometers to about 940 and extend what we viewed as the fertile corridor. And the 2018 resource and PEA, which the resource was the basis for where we sat on that chart comparing us to Arizona Mining. That was based on one tiny little corner of the project, about 50 square kilometers, and even not all of the mineralization and within that 50 square kilometers was included in that resource or accounted for in the PEA. And so when you think about that PEA, you got to consider that so much has changed since then. It looked very good, but nonetheless, we've expanded Tom and Jason. We've done some drilling at End Zone. We've done a bunch of drilling at Boundary Zone and shown that Boundary Zone expands significantly to the west. We've done a bunch of engineering. The government has announced funding for our road. The next resource statement and PEA will be substantially different. And critically, the focus on the company has been in the western part of the project at Boundary Zone. We drilled a couple holes there in 2019 that were pretty incredible. 230 meters true thickness of 4.1% zinc. First 100 meters of that from surface of 8% zinc. So these are really, it's not just the grade; it's the grade width. That sort of true width. When you're intersecting drill holes like that, the tons add up very quickly. This is not like drilling 500 meters for a 10 to 20 meter intersection. The holes at boundary zone are 70+% at least mineralized. That makes a big difference in terms of what bang for your buck you get for your drill budget. And the mineralization we were hitting there, very different than what we see at Tom and Jason, whereas Tom and Jason are classic SEDEX deposits, finely laminated barite shale hosted. Boundary zone was this kind of veining from everything from sort of veinlets and stockworks to, big, very thick veins. We hit a thick vein sequence there where we were hitting 1 meter intervals of nearly pure sphalerite, like 62.5% zinc. But critically this year, thanks to a really fantastic technical team, we got out there, we extended the gravity survey from a few test lines to an extensive 50 line kilometer gravity survey around boundary zone. Looked at it, it appeared that it was extending to the west. So we did some drill holes in the west, and as we announced late last year, we did hit with those drill holes. And that, when you sort of take the core boundary zone, which is about 400 meters of strike, and you say, okay, well, this gravity anomaly shows that it extends significantly, and then you hit with those drill holes, you start to be able to conceive of truly, truly massive, mineralization. And pre-2020, I think a lot of you had seen this slide. The conceptual target for 2020 was, okay, so at boundary zone, we were seeing these feeder style mineralization, the veins that I discussed. Is this piped into a barite cap somewhere where you get massive sulfides as a result? And that's exactly what happened in boundary zone west. So in boundary west, we saw two sequences, both with this feeder system underneath, that hit some sort of cap and produces a stratiform style mineralization. So in the upper sequence, we saw both Tom Jason style stratiform barite sort of shale hosted mineralization, pretty narrow interval, but super interesting that it's the exact same point in time in the stratigraphy as Tom. And then we also saw this big thick sequence of massive sulfides. This is massive pyrite dominant, and then with some sphalerite and galena, where we think the barite in that area was completely blown out and completely replaced. So that was extremely exciting. This is very similar to what they see in places at Red Dog. And then perhaps, as if that wasn't enough, as if seeing these sections of massive sulfide weren't enough, we kept drilling that hole, and despite going through a 50+ meter barren interval, the hole kept going, and we intersected a second sequence of mineralization in much older rocks. This is Ordovician Silurian age rocks, an age of rocks we've never seen mineralization in Mac Pass before. So this was extremely surprising, and extremely pleasant surprise. And the style of mineralization we see there, stratiform, but not barite hosted. So this is a lot like what we see, 50 to 80 kilometers away at Howard's Pass. So with that in mind, we kind of remodeled the conceptual geology of boundary zone with a focus on, west boundary. And, what you see is a massive sulfide cap in the upper sequence, exactly what we wanted to see. You see multiple pulses of mineralization. You see a lower sequence as well. This is a long-lived system with multiple pulses with deep architecture, very high potential for a massive, massive deposit here. So for us, this has been an extremely exciting year. I wish we had assays to back up the kind of geology nerd speak here, but if you get this, you understand the significance of this and what it can mean for the project. And this is all while, now that we've assembled this 940 square kilometer land package, we have so many other targets. And the interesting ones as you go west onto the new ground, 11 and Imperial, both extremely interesting. The bend to the east, potentially along the same trend, not just zinc and soil, but there is sphalerite galena and outcrop there. The steel anomaly, which is a multi-kilometer silver and soil anomaly, up to 1 ounce silver and soil, extremely interesting. It is a truly target-rich environment, and a real pleasure to be working in a district like this. So, quickly, I think everyone's seen this, the onion before, and I think it's critical to think about this when you're conceptualizing what could the NPV of Mac Pass be. So you're starting with that 2018 PEA. You're building on that with the government road funding, the engineering, resource expansion at Tom and Jason, the introduction of boundary zone, and then potential blue sky at any one of those numerous targets I just talked about. So we're expecting, once you start to integrate those things, radically different looking project and a true premier zinc project, polymetallic project, really, for that matter. And in terms of near term, 2021 and 2022, this is an extremely catalyst rich near term roadmap here. 2021 should be a big year for drilling for us. Define boundary zone, expand Tom and Jason, hopefully test some of those new targets. We should get results on metallurgy from boundary zone. The challenge with that is I don't want to start predicting timeframes on that, because that's again constrained by the assay labs, which have proven themselves to be extremely slow. But nonetheless, this all feeds into 2022, hopefully a new global resource, an updated PEA that looks radically different. This should look like we believe this has the potential to look a true tier 1 zinc or outright base metal project. Keep us in your watch list, and reach out if you have questions. Thank you very much.